Ptolemy, another general, got Egypt to the south. Lysimachus got Asia Minor. Cassander got Greece. The four winds of the Greek Empire. Here is a map of the Middle East. Here's Macedonia up here. I hope you can see it. I suggest that you sit close to the front. Here's his campaign. The first battle is right here. These are the greatest battles. We're going to quickly look at a few of his battles. This is at the river Granicus. He then takes care of Asia Minor, winning all these cities over to loyalty to him and away from Persia. The second battle is fought right here, though it is not highlighted on this map that has a mistake, and that is the Battle of Issus. He then comes down the coast because he must secure the coast, because he does not have a powerful navy, so he's got to secure all the ports so that no navy can come in and get him on his backside. He comes to Egypt, founds Alexandria, he's crowned pharaoh, he makes his way back past Jerusalem. There is nothing but tradition for a visit to Jerusalem, where he told the high priest of Jerusalem, this is only tradition, and I'm only going to take 30 seconds. He met the high priest of Jerusalem, and he told him, you may keep your religion, and you may keep all that you do in Jerusalem, because before I embarked on this campaign, I was told by your God that I would be successful. It's not in the Bible. He then meets Darius III in the plains of Babylon, the plains of Shinar, the plains of modern-day northern Iraq, for the decisive battle of overthrowing the Persians. He comes and takes Babylon, he takes Shushan, he takes their great city Persepolis, and then he goes through this vast territory of Afghanistan and the other stands that are over there as he works toward Pakistan. This route is terribly long, 12,000 miles in 5 years. Go home and divide that and then do it by foot. Until he comes to the Indus River here and takes the Indians on, his men will go no further. They do not want to punch through India to the great ocean that they thought was over there, so they come down the Indus River, they go home, and he dies in Babylon right here. I hope that gives you a little bit of a picture. This is the Mediterranean Sea. This is the Black Sea. This is the Caspian Sea. What was battle like for Greeks? The Greek phalanx. The most potent weapon in the world's militaries at that time. Those spears are approximately 17 to 20 feet long. They weigh 12 to 15 pounds. I'll show you a picture in a moment. The first four lines all have them pointed forward. Their shields are locked together. The shield hung around their neck because they had to use both hands on something that was 18 feet long and weighed 12 pounds. It was hooked to the shield next. It covered their left half of their body and the right half of the body of the next one. They stood next to each other and they marched forward. They did not run. They did not get disorganized. And an opposing army could not allow them to split their army. And an opposing army was not disciplined like this, but was running at them. And they would just be impaled on this multitude of spears. You got to understand that one spear is sticking out 16 feet. The next one is sticking out 14, 12, 10, 8. And the rest are ready to drop into place if a man falls. The Greek phalanx. You say, well, what about their sides? They were protected by light cavalry. Where was Alexander? Heavy cavalry at the front in a diamond-shaped wedge, plowing into the enemy wherever he saw weakness, and the prince of Grecia would give him the wisdom to know exactly where he could hit an opponent's front line and punch through in a couple of hours and defeat opponents ranging from 3 times his numbers to 25 times his numbers. The Greek military formation. There's a Sarissa that was used by the phalanx. There's a normal 6-foot man holding it. 13 to 21 feet long, 12 to 15 pounds. The butt was pointed, so if they were being charged by elephants in India, they would just drop that butt into the ground and let that poor little 6-ton animal impale itself on an 18-foot thermometer. Do you know what happened when you met Persians that only had 8-foot spears? They were at a slight disadvantage. We have boxing matches today where they love to tell you that one man has a 36-inch reach or a 60-inch reach, and the other boxer has a 62-inch reach. Well, what if an army has a 16-foot reach and the other army has a 6-foot reach with an 8-foot spear? You're in trouble. What if you're going to try those spears with a sword? The Battle of Granicus. Let's look at a few of his big battles. Alexander, this is his first battle. He's 22 years old. He meets the Persian satraps. Those are the provincial governors. Darius III was not here. They did not consider him enough of a threat yet. He crosses with 40,000 men. His army was never bigger than 40,000 men. Macedonians, very loyal to him. They would follow him anywhere except deeper into India after facing war elephants. But the war elephants killed far more Indians than it did Macedonians because they threw so many javelins and darts at them that the enraged animals, not killed, darts or javelins don't kill elephants. The enraged animals would turn around and stampede their own army. The poor Persians, and this is the Prince of Grecia helping. You gotta read it. They made a terrible mistake, and Alexander knew it in 1 second. After a day's march, when they crested a hill at the Granicus River and saw the Persians encamped on the opposite side on a steep bank overlooking the river, he knew in 1 second he had the battle. 3-1 odds. They're on the high ground across the river because they put their cavalry on that bank, and a man can't fight when he's on the back of a horse because he can't move. Cavalry is for charging. It's not for being mobile. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. He was warned to plan before attacking. Though he had finished a day's march, he attacked right then. Across the river, up the bank, and into the Persians with the fury of a man possessed. Right. Everyone knows about it. His temperament has been written about in many pages by historians favorable to Greece and not favorable to Greece. His furious charge broke through and scattered the Persians. 129 Greeks, thousands of Persians dead after the first battle. Battle of Granicus. Here's Macedonia and Pella. You probably can't see Pella in the back of the room. That's where Alexander was born. He had to come due west, keep these things in mind, and cross the Hellespont, right here. The separation between Europe and Asia, one of the most important bodies of water in the world. It's a strait that connects the Aegean Sea with the Black Sea. This is the Sea of Marmara that leads to the Black Sea. You can see Athens down here. You can see Sparta. Corinth is in here. Bible towns. Philippi is up here. He went due west and came to the great division between Europe and Asia, and that was the line in the sand for the Persians. He crossed over because he was going after Darius. The Battle of Granicus, here's that division leading up here to the Black Sea. Alexander came and crossed, marched his men, and if you can see in the back, here's the battle at the river Granicus. The Persians are on the east, Alexander is on the west. This is what it looks like. He had thousands of Greek mercenaries in the back. The Persians didn't trust them. If they'd have put the Greek mercenaries at the front with the man controlling this cavalry, Memnon, a man from Rhodes, a traitor to Greece, he'd have repelled Alexander. The Macedonians could outfight several Persians, but they put him in the back because they didn't trust him. Here's the cavalry up on a bank over a river, unable to move. You're sitting on a horse. What can you do? They're not going to jump off the bank. They'd all break their legs. They're just waiting up there. They can't do anything. Alexander, in a second, approaches, splits his men up. Parmenion, who's a 60-year-old battle veteran of his father, is over on the left side, always fighting the same formation. This is Alexander right here, his famous companions, the best heavy cavalry in the world. They line up this way. He spreads out to the right. They extend their flanks because they don't want to get circled. As soon as they spread their flanks, he sees a weakness. He charges across the front of the line at that weakness, through the water, up the muddy bank. Horses are tripping and falling. They claw their way up to the top. He engages two of the leaders right off the bat. Listen, the man is as visible as can be. He has white plumes of feathers coming out 2 feet in the air. He's got the shiniest armor on. They all know it's Alexander. 2 of their best, kings of provinces, governors of provinces, come after him. He and his bodyguards kill them both. And in a couple of hours, 129 Greek dead, thousands of Persians dead, and the mercenaries, he surrounded them and killed 10,000 down to 2,000 and sent the 2,000 home to work in the mines. The first battle. Ferocious. These are words that you want to remember, because when the Bible gives you descriptive phrases, you're going to know what they mean, because they're going to fall into place. This information is available to all. This is not one historian nor 10. This is the way Alexander conquered the world. The Battle of Issus. This is the second battle. A year later, he takes all of Asia Minor, gets all the city-states loyal to him. Darius brings a large army from Babylon. Historians vary from 100 to 600,000. The small numbers are always modern historians who will not allow that they could have put an army in the field of 600,000 men. There's two reasons. Number one, no one in modern times has ever done it. Number two, they don't want to believe the Bible and the numbers that are found in the Bible.
Amen.
So they take Herodotus and others, historians that were living at the time, some favorable, some unfavorable to Greece, that describe the number of men in the armies. They are written in the inscriptions of some of these kings about their armies. But modern men have never seen an army in the field of over 100,000 men at one time. So they can't imagine it. So they run it down. But all the old historians, around 600,000 and up. And 20 to 40,000 cavalry. Darius flanked Alexander. Didn't make a bit of difference, because Darius chose too small of a battle area for that big of an army. Alexander took his heavy cavalry right at Darius. Darius at the heart of a woman compared to Alexander the Great. As soon as he saw that gold chariot with gold armor in the middle of the Persian army, he drove his wedge-shaped heavy cavalry right through the front lines. As soon as Darius saw that Alexander was making progress through the front lines, he turns that gold chariot around and runs for his life, dumps it to grab a lighter chariot, because horses have trouble hauling hundreds of pounds of gold. He leaves his mother, he leaves his wife, and he leaves his sons in a tent, his chariot, his bow, and his mantle. Yeah, okay, that's down here. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The next battle, 2 years later, he takes all of what's called Palestine and he takes Egypt. Darius III raises the largest army, 1 million men. He chooses a flat area in northern Iraq that will be to the advantage of his chariots and men. Alexander, same formation that you saw earlier, went 30 degrees, 45 degrees right. He just kept going right, leaving his phalanxes until he spread 1 million men thin enough that he could dart back again and drive through the thin front. Because these men that counted on numbers, they counted on having a solid front. But that solid front is thinned down in depth the wider you make it, even if it's 1 million men. Anyway, it's exciting to read about it. You're going to see how it falls into place with what the Bible says about him. Once thinned, companion cavalry broke through it. Darius saw them coming. He runs away again. Now, the first time at Issus, Alexander chased them until dark. But it's hard to find people in the dark without headlights. And so he lost them that time. But 2 years later, here at Gaugamela, or Arbela, the battle's known under both names, he chased him 400 miles in 11 days. And the men that were with him assassinated him and left him in a wagon because they were tired of running 400 miles from the madman behind them. And so he found him, sent him home to his mother, and gave him a royal burial in Persepolis. The Battle of Hydaspes in India. Alexander reached the Pakistan-Indian border. His opponent had cavalry and elephants. It was the most difficult battle for the Greeks. They won, but his men didn't want any more of India. They mutinied. Now, there was an arrangement at all times that they would agree unanimously about what they were going to do. But this time it was Alexander against the army, and Alexander had to submit because they were not going to go further. They wanted to go home. And so they came down the Indus and went back to Babylon.